Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Daily Word. Today is Monday, December 27th. We are rapidly approaching the end of 2021. So glad you could join me on this Monday morning. I know many of us are continuing in the midst of our Christmas celebrations and still lots of things to happen and lots of gifts to open and presents to share and meals to share. But it's been a good Christmas season to be with all of you. We had fun, excellent, inspiring, spirit-filled worship on Christmas Eve. And we, of course, lit the candle from the Christ candle. And to me, that's always such an important moment in our celebration to remember the presence of Christ in our midst. So glad you could join us on Christmas Eve. We had a great time. And yesterday morning for worship, there weren't many of us, but we had a grand time, and we had some good donuts to share and some cinnamon rolls and coffee. So glad you could join us for worship yesterday. So just a reminder that this Sunday there's not going to be in-person worship. It'll simply be online. Most likely, I will be at the church, and we'll be coming from there, but we'll see as the week goes on. How that plays out. But anyway, not in-person worship, just on Facebook Live this coming Sunday. So, we are headlong in this season, and we continue with the celebrations of all the Christmas. And even though it's not included in this year's lectionary cycle from the Gospel of Matthew, we know the story of the wise men who were sent by Herod to go. He was devious. He wanted them to go see what was going to happen and come and report back to him so that he could go, to cause trouble, of course. Well, the wise men were told in a dream by God not to go back, but to go home a different way. But in the middle of that, the wise men arrived at where Jesus was, and they followed the star, of course. And so we hear just these couple of verses from the second chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so we're familiar with this wise men story, these three sages, three fortune tellers who come from the east to come and because they were told by Herod to go, they went. But when they got there, after having followed the star, they realized, because I believe that something deep inside of them, like something deep inside of us, they knew the story, they knew of the prophecy of the Messiah. And when they arrived there, and when the star led them there, and the scripture says they were filled with joy, I believe that deep inside of them, this yearning to know of the Messiah came to fruition. And it was, trying to block that light, it was then realized in their hearts and in their spirits that something amazing had indeed happened there. And so they come and they bring these gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And they offer these gifts to the Christ child. So, we linger in this season. Here we are, there's this week in between Christmas and New Year. And when we linger in the season, when we think about the story, the entire story, I think it gives us a deeper sense of wonder and awe concerning what had happened, the incarnation of Christ into the world, of the Messiah. I think we have to linger in it. And for me, like the wise men, I think for us, there is this important thing about, I think deep inside of us, there's this yearning to know of the Christ. There's this yearning to be engaged in the story. There's this yearning to know that we journey together through life. And I think for us to just linger in the story, to think about, as we have done this entire Advent season, to think about all the important people in the story, to think about how God worked in their lives. And then, we have shepherds, and now this morning we hear just a bit of the story of the wise men, to think about how their lives were forever changed as well. So the wise men, told in the dream to go home by a different route. Their lives were changed too. They had to go home a different way. They had to take the long way, if you will. And their lives were forever changed. And one of the interesting question I always wonder about the shepherds and then about the wise men after the fact is, I wonder what their conversations were about. When the shepherds went back to the fields and they had told everyone what they had seen and heard, the scripture tells us, I wonder in the coming days and weeks and months and years, what their conversation was about, how long it lingered. And for the wise men, as they made that rather long journey back, what was their conversation about? What lingered in their conversations? And I think that should be true for us. To not let this moment pass quickly, but to linger in the moment of this Christmas season. To think about the stories, to think about everything that we've seen and heard. To think about everything that's become important to us in this faith journey together. To have the sense of wonder and awe in our lives. To discover for ourselves a renewed sense of awe and praise at the news that the Messiah is born in us. And we're going to move ahead. The new year's coming rather quickly, right? Can we linger in this moment? Can we pause with some awe and wonder? Can we continue to bring our gifts as the wise men did? But then, can we continue? Will we continue? Should we continue the conversation? What have we seen and heard? What about this story draws our attention? What about this story of the birth of Jesus draws us in? Maybe it's just the conversation. Maybe it's the angels. Maybe it's shepherds and wise men. Maybe it's Mary and Joseph. Maybe it's Zechariah and Elizabeth. Maybe it's the angel Gabriel. Or maybe it's how it affects us, how we find ourselves in the midst of the story. I pray that we would, like the wise men and the shepherds and others, that we would linger in the moment, that we would continue the conversation, that we would be in awe and wonder of a God who came to earth and loved us so much that he sent Jesus, as the scripture reminds us. So, in the midst of all your celebrations, in the midst of this new year, and when it comes time to take down decorations and to rearrange your house and to get ready for a new year, I pray that you'll linger with me in the moment, that we'll continue to share the story together and just talk about, as the shepherds did and the wise men did, everything that they had seen and heard, and be filled, as the scripture says, be overwhelmed with joy when the star stopped and then stops in our lives and changes us. So I pray that you'll have a great day and a great week as we prepare for the coming of a new year. Be reminded of God's love. Be in awe at the presence of the Messiah in all of our midst. Share it with others. Tell the story. And I look forward to seeing you together every day this week as we move forward and as we plunge headlong into a new year. Know of God's love and my love for all of you, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.